Hi, my name is Joshua Dominguez, and this is my final video project for Art History of Mexico. I'll be talking about El Porfiriato that occurred from 1876 to 1911, and three murals that were a product of this time period in Mexico. To begin, let's talk about the one and only Porfirio Diaz and how he came to power. José de la Cruz Porfirio Diaz Mori was born on September 15, 1830 in Oaxaca City, Oaxaca. As a young general, Diaz fought in both the Reform War from 1858 to 1860 and the Second French Intervention from 1862 to 1867. Diaz made his name known in the Battle of Puebla on the 5th of May, 1862, or Cinco de Mayo, when he led a cavalry charge against the French forces, solidifying a Mexican victory over the most powerful military of the time. At the end of the French intervention, Diaz had grown in opposition against the then President Benito Juarez, who had governed Mexico since 1858. Diaz decided to run for president against Juarez in 1871, but lost the elections. He then proceeded to revolt and took up arms with the slogan of no re-election. However, Juarez died from a heart attack on July 18, 1872, ending with 13 years as president and ending Diaz's revolt. Juarez was then succeeded by the then president of the Supreme Court, Sebastián Lerdo de Tejada, who ended Juarez's term from 1872 to 1875. In the 1875 elections, Diaz ran against Tejada, who attempted to re-elect himself. Diaz lost the election and took up arms once again. This time, succeeding in his revolt, Diaz exiled Tejada and took power of the presidency in 1876, beginning the time period of the Porfiriato. The slogan for Porfirio's government became peace, order, and progress. However, peace in Mexico was strict. Diaz had to fight against a lot of political opposition and high delinquent rates. He fought both fronts with the plan of pan o palo, bread or stick. If the opposition chose bread, they were to show loyalty to Diaz and his government and were often rewarded with promotions or political power. For those who did not choose bread, there was palo or stick, referring to incarceration, exile, or death. To maintain order, Diaz became what we call a dictator. With the approval of Congress, Diaz reorganized the military branches with generals that were loyal to him. There was no tolerance for any form of opposition. In one instance, protests in Veracruz broke out. Military forces were sent to stop the protesters and were given the supposed order from Diaz, "Mátalos en caliente." An unknown number of men, women, and children were killed in June 1879. Diaz police and military forces oppressed many political leaders and Native American uprisings, many of which leaders were sent to prison and often killed with the ley de fuga, which meant if you attempted to flee prison, you were shot in the back. Progress was also significant in this time period. When Don Porfirio Diaz entered power, the flag of his regime were both the railway and telegram lines. The railway system alone went from only 800 kilometers in 1876 to about 20,000 kilometers by 1911. The telegram lines that connected communication throughout the nation went from 17,000 kilometers in 1877 to about 23,000 kilometers by the 1900s. Porfirio also recognized the importance of science. He often traveled the nation with his gang, los científicos, the scientists. The Porfirian government opened its doors to foreign investment, earning a place among nations such as the US, Spain, France, and Great Britain. It was this recognition that allowed Mexico to participate in the exhibit for the first time in the World Fair in Paris 1889. For the progress regarding architecture, Porfirio went all in with monumental construction projects. This includes El Ángel de la Independencia, el Palacio de Bellas Artes, the unfinished Palacio Legislativo, which is now the Monument to the Revolution, el Palacio Postal, and el Palacio de Comunicaciones. Moving on, we will look into the three murals that resulted from the progress of this time period. Alberto Foster was born in Tacotalpan, Veracruz, 1872. At the age of 16, he completed his studies in Mexico's prestige Escuela Nacional de Bellas Artes. In 1903, Foster was hired to paint an oil and canvas mural to decorate the new Palacio de Comunicaciones. Foster's painting was called Allegory of Peace. Now, if this painting looks familiar to you, then you might recall Michelangelo's School of Athens. The mural references many classical gods, as well as arts of dance, painting, sculpting, music, and mathematics, to name a few. The most noticeable figure in this mural is the braided woman wearing a rebozo and a long blue dress. Even without holding the flag, this woman can be recognized as an indigenous Mexican. The woman leads laborers through the stairway with the national flag to the land of European classical orders and peace. The next two murals in this presentation were painted by Saturnino Herrán. He was born in Aguascalientes on July 9, 1887. His two murals, Allegory of Construction and Allegory of Labor, were part of the exhibition for the Escuela de Artes y Oficios para Varones, Men's School of Arts and Trades, during the capital's celebration of Mexico's centennial. The two murals depict strong, fair-skinned men working in essential tasks such as pottery, masonry, and framing. These two murals also depict the construction and labor that took to construct Porfirio Diaz Mexico City. We can also admire in the second mural a woman doing her part, feeding her children, while the men labor around her. The two paintings were later purchased as a gift to Porfirio Diaz himself. Like all things, there is an end. With the disapproval of the people, Porfirio's violent government began to crumble. In a 1908 interview, James Krillman questioned Diaz whether he believed his government was a dictatorship. To look good, Porfirio responded, "I have waited patiently for the day the republic can choose and change its government in every election without the risk of a revolt. I believe that that day has finally come." When the article was published, it sparked the interest of many politicians, including Francisco A. Madero. Madero was the leading candidate in the 1910 elections against Diaz. However, Diaz decided to incarcerate Madero, which only escalated things further. Diaz rigged the 1910 elections and was once again in power. Madero, that was now out of prison, called the nation to arms, sparking the Mexican Revolution. Surrounded by Pancho Villa, Pascual Orozco, and Victoriano Huerta to the north, as well as Emiliano Zapata and his military in the south, Diaz was surrounded and fled to France in exile. This ended Porfirio Diaz's 3 decades in power.